Original post, May 11, 2024. My girlfriend Celine, 20 female, and I, 21 male, had been dating for about 7 months now, but I had feelings for her for like 3 years beforehand. I have also been sharing a flat with 2 other girls and 1 other guy. One of the girls is Kaya, and we're pretty good friends. As it just so happens, Celine's ex cheated on her with Kaya. Kaya hadn't known they were together at the time. So when I first brought Celine over to my place earlier in our relationship, she told me about what had happened. I realized then that things would be messy, and I asked Celine if this was a deal breaker for her, but she said she wasn't sure as she was aware that Kaya didn't realize she was facilitating cheating. The next day, Celine said she thought it over and that she held no resentment towards Kaya but was insecure about herself and felt uneasy that we lived in the same house. We both agreed to continue with the relationship and set our boundaries. One of them was that Kaya and I wouldn't sleep over in each other's rooms anymore. We used to have movie nights on Fridays. Kaya's room was the only room with a TV in my flat, and I'd sometimes fall asleep in her room during movie nights. Everything was platonic and I told Celine about this. Let's move to the present time where our relationship is like a fairy tale. Being with Celine is pretty awesome. But my exams are coming up soon, and because I'm horribly underprepared, I needed to lock in. So I told Celine I would have to be a bit selfish and wouldn't be able to spend time with her or have much communication till they're done. For the past 3 weeks, my life has been, wake up, spend the entire day at the library, then come home to sleep for like 5 or 6 hours, then go study again. It's a horrible routine and I feel like a zombie, but I have too much content to catch up on and not enough time. I must also admit that I've not been in contact with Celine all that often. We only talked twice on FaceTime and texted very little. She tried initiating but I had my phone shut off while studying and only replied when I left the library. On our second call, she said she felt neglected, and it was really starting to get to her, and she wanted to spend some time together. I apologized, told her I missed her too and that she could come over to spend the night. But she came about an hour later than she was supposed to, and I fell asleep by then. She still stayed the night, but the next morning I felt that she was upset I fell asleep. Then I got really sick 3 days ago. I threw up at the library and asked Kaya to come pick me up. My other roommates are out of town, and Celine would have taken too long to get there. When I got into bed, I threw up all over my sheets. At this point, my memory of what happened is foggy. I was very drowsy and not thinking straight. Rather than cleaning up and setting new sheets, I texted Celine I was very sick and had vomited over my bed and asked if I could sleep over at hers. I got no reply, so I went downstairs and slept on the couch. When I woke up the next morning, I was asleep on Kaya's bed shirtless. I had no clue how I got here. But Celine came to check up on me and walked in on me like this. This was when I woke up, and Celine was very upset. She yelled, "How could you?" and before I had the chance to say anything, she left. Kaya told me that when she saw me asleep on the couch, she offered to let me sleep on her bed instead. I have no recollection of this. I probably took my shirt off because I felt hot at some point during the night. She also said she slept on the couch, and we didn't share the bed. I've been trying to reach out to Celine, but she blocked my number, WhatsApp, Insta. We have 2 mutual friends but they both haven't replied to any of my texts. My fever died down last night, so I went to Celine's to clarify the situation, but her roommates said she wasn't going to talk and made me leave. This whole situation just feels so horrible. I love the relationship that I had with Celine and the fact that it's probably over makes me feel so distraught. I also reflected on how I've been recently, and I realized that a lot of blame goes on me. My exams aren't a reason to just completely shut myself out of my relationship and I need to work on being able to juggle life and studies at the same time. Other than her finding me asleep on Kaya's bed, she probably had a lot of animosity and upset amalgamating over the last 3 weeks of me not being in contact. It's painful knowing I made a very unnecessary decision that had I put in more effort, it wouldn't have cost me a great person out of my life. Relevant comments. Comment 1. You spoke with your girlfriend twice in 3 weeks? That's not how relationships work, buddy. Comment 2. This girl already slept with her last boyfriend. The fact she even decided she could deal with you guys living together is huge. Then you tell her you have platonic movie nights that end up with you guys sleeping together in her room. At that point I would have bowed out, but she still just asked for a simple boundary. I've never been sick to the point where I genuinely don't remember taking my own clothes off and getting in a different bed. You hardly talk to her or make time for her for weeks. A simple text or phone call is very easy, and at that point I'd assume something was up. Then she literally finds you in that girl's bed. You're either lying and have an interest in that girl, you were roofied, or you didn't actually care about your girlfriend. I'd be out. Update 1, May 28, 2024. I'll start by saying now that this post will be very long. The most expected outcome is what happened. The reason I'm posting this is because I saw Celine for the final time a couple days ago, and I also want to clear the air on some matters. For the sake of tracking time, let's call day 1 the day Celine broke up with me. Day 4 was when my initial post was published. I sat my final exam on day 7, and didn't actually check up on the post at all till day 8. I was very shocked reading the comments. To be blatantly honest, I wasn't expecting like 1,000 people calling me a huge bellend. I knew I made a mistake, but in my head, I thought I was a good person. You know how you just kind of perceive yourself to always try and do things with a good intention, so you think you can't ever be a bad person? I don't know if that makes sense. But reading the post opened up my perspective and made me realize that the relationship was not salvageable, and also gave me depth on the hurt I caused Celine. I shattered her trust completely and was just not a good boyfriend for an entire month leading to the breakup. So, I just didn't contact her. As I'll mention later on, I was not in a good headspace, and I distanced myself because I was an even bigger ass than I let on previously. On day 12, she messaged me to ask for her iPad back. She'd let me borrow it for my notes. We last met on day 15 when she came to collect it, among other things. We were both silent the whole time she was there, which must have only been like 5 minutes or so. She returned some of my stuff I'd left in her apartment, and when she was about to leave, I told her I was sorry. She said okay. I said I never meant to hurt her. She, again, just said okay. I figured nothing I could say was the right thing at this point and we said goodbye. So like I said, the very expected outcome occurred. I can't lie and say that I'm instantaneously a better person now, I'm not. I want to be better, but I can't become a better person in a couple of weeks and will need to really work on my character in general. As for Celine, I can only just pray and wish for the best for her. I'm going to answer some of the main questions that people had. I never went into the full depth of the story because there is a lot of context behind it all and I just never expected the post to reach so many people. Did Kaya know about Celine's boundaries? Yes. I told her the day Celine and I discussed our boundaries. She seemed to be very understanding and we both kept our distance since. How did you lose consciousness from vomiting? It was from dehydration. On day 1, I went to the hospital at noon because my condition wasn't getting any better. I had a temperature of 104 and a blood test showed I was severely dehydrated, and I was put on a drip. None of this was mentioned because I never expected this to be a matter of criticism and thought very ill. Sufficed for it in my previous post. What's the need to be studying so hard? This is a question that needs a lot of context to understand, and I'll do my best to provide it now. I'm Indian, and my father is very similar to those strict Indian dads that you'll often see portrayed in movies. Take every Indian dad stereotype and you'll get my dad. He's in the military and is about as strict a man as you can imagine. He tried forcing me to join the army. I wanted to choose my own career path, which was in computer science, and we had a huge rift occur between us because of it. I moved from India to the UK for my studies, and one of the only reasons he agreed to pay for my tuition fees was because A, the university I'd gotten into is prestigious, so he was happy with that, and B, he had a way to monitor my grades and could use this as leverage to make me study harder. In year 1, I did not do so splendidly. I finished with a grade average of 63%, which although is like the median score, upset my dad a lot. He got extremely physical and smacked me in the face a few times, and I had some bruises after. He also threatened to not pay for my final year if I didn't get an average of 70% this year, which would mean that the entire 2 years I've spent here would go to waste. I'm an international student, so I can't get a loan either. Furthermore, I did really bad on my summative earlier in the year. I got a 41 on an exam worth 13% of my entire grade, and a 52 and 59 on 2 others worth 6% each. Celine also knows everything about my dad. We had a whole conversation before I went absent in our relationship, where I told her I was very far behind on my studies and was afraid of the consequences this would cause. We agreed I should try and study as much as I can till my exams were over, and she said she'd be fine with being in contact less often. Why did you barely stay in contact with Celine? Very simply put, I was a bad boyfriend. This is going to sound awful, but I think a part of me just didn't want to have to deal with being in a relationship. I was overwhelmed and it felt like a burden having to talk to someone. I completely acknowledge how horrible that is of me to even think. When I had those thoughts, I just downplayed them and let myself believe it was just me being cranky. Anyway, there's just never an excuse to go weeks without talking to your girlfriend and I was an asshole for doing that. However, I never, under any circumstances, had any intentions of cheating on her. I didn't want to deal with anyone period, and so I didn't want to be around Kaya either. I mention this because a lot of people speculated that Kaya and I had something going on, which isn't the case. I just wanted to be alone till my exams were over. Why did Kaya invite you to her bed? I asked her, and she said the following. I was on my way out to an overnight study session, which meant no one would be home, so I thought you might as well sleep on my bed then. I didn't think it would be such a big deal considering how bad of a condition you were in. I thought Celine would understand. I didn't get in the bed when I got home, I slept on the couch. I could not sleep in my roommate's bed because they were out of town and locked their rooms. Kaya throws parties every once in a while, so they lock their rooms just in case. I think that's as much as I can say about this now. There's not a great deal more to add rather than an apology to those who read all of this and still aren't content with my answers. As for what happens next, I don't think I'll be sprinting into a new relationship anytime soon. I'm long overdue for some self-reflection, and along with trying to enjoy my summer holidays, I hope I can figure myself out and try and do better from now on. TLDR, we broke up and I now realize I'm not ready for relationships for a while. Relevant comments. Comment 1, I'm glad Celine stood on business, at least Lamau. Comment 2, I'm just genuinely curious about Kaya's thought process if you're telling the truth. She knew she was the person Celine's ex cheated on her with. She knew about the boundary. When she finds you sick on the couch with something that can be contagious for all she knows, she physically helped you get into her bed risking contagion, where you could absolutely have ended up throwing up again, making a mess out of her bed as well. She then went to sleep on the couch. Your potentially contagious germs would be all over? In her situation, I would have stripped your bed so the sick wouldn't fester and throw it in the washer. I would have checked in that you didn't need to go to the hospital, put out something to drink, and some painkillers. I would have contacted Celine and let her know how you were doing, and that you would probably really appreciate it if she dropped by to check in on you. No boundaries disrespected. I don't risk getting sick. You won't have a nasty surprise in the morning. But for some reason Kaya just had to get you into her bed, while drastically increasing the risk of getting sick or a bed full of sick. Story 2, my girlfriend received flowers from her ex on her birthday, and will not get rid of them. Original post, February 3, 2024. Hey all, the last few days have been rough on my relationship, so I was looking for some neutral opinions on the situation. The situation goes as follows. I, 22 male, was on the phone with my girlfriend, 24 female, the evening before her birthday. At around 12:30 a.m. on the morning of her birthday, she received flowers, not from me. I was specifically told by her to not get her flowers on her birthday, after which she brought them in, asked if I was still on the phone, then said she was going to bed. When I asked who they were from, she said she hadn't read the card yet. Later that day, when we were talking, I brought up how this made me uncomfortable. She went into how I do not trust her and how that is not okay. When the question of if she kept the flowers came up, she mentioned she did and has them in a vase, and will absolutely not be getting rid of them. What should I do about this? Added for clarity, I did not ask her to throw them out. Her reply was in response to my asking if she kept them. The ex did deliver them. Ex and her have had some contact, but I am told only about work-related things. Added 2. For clarity, to my understanding, the ex dropped them off, but he was not present when she opened the door and saw them. Her justification for not knowing who they were from was that the note was signed with the initials of a name he used to be called. After bringing it up, she ended the conversation with something to the extent of, I want tomorrow to be about me, so if you can't do that, let's wait to talk until the weekend. Ultimately, I decided to put it on hold, let her birthday pass, and then deal with it. I sent her a very lengthy and sweet birthday message, to which I received a simple thank you. After she replied, I gave her a call offering to grab her something from her favorite breakfast spot, and I was told she didn't want it and that she was going to go back to sleep. After this, I felt like she did not want to interact with me that day, so I did not push any further. Later she texted me, quite upset that I had not made any effort for her that day. Later that night we had a FaceTime, and I wanted to listen to why she felt the way she did, apologize for the way things turned out, and attempt to explain why I did what I did. Today I received a lengthy chain of texts saying how she was talking to her sister, and she thinks I am trying to manipulate her, and basically explain how she felt like I tried to blame her for the way things turned out. I don't want this to be the case. I don't want it to feel like I'm blaming her for anything when I try to talk about why I felt the way I did. I've apologized and acknowledged that I misinterpreted her desires. Even aside from the flower thing, what are some ways to talk to people about your feelings without making it seem like you're blaming them? I also tried to take her out in the evening, which she did not want to do, and rather decided to have a discussion about things, which is why the flowers got brought back up. Update 1, same post, a day later. We have had our talk, and I ended things. I approached the breakup from the perspective of not being compatible with our methods of communication. I wanted to keep it as civil as possible, as we are part of some small circles in terms of career and friends, so I'd like to maintain a solid perception. At some points, she tried to take it in the direction of an argument. However, I just made it very clear I was not here to argue or work anything out, and that I felt like we would not be able to handle disagreements well in the future, so it was best to call things off. I appreciate all the comments and replies. I felt the way many of you had iterated, manipulated, gaslit, and emotionally invalidated, but I tried my best to not bias the updates with those emotions, to try to get as neutral of opinions as possible. Honestly, right now I just feel relieved, which I think is very telling. I did not include this in the original post because I was so emotionally drained at that point and did not feel like typing it out again. But I think the thing that really sealed it beyond belief was how she responded to my last attempt to try and make things better. On the day she spoke to her sister, I responded to the manipulation text with something to the extent of, "I see you and I hear what you're saying, I had no intention of making you feel that way and I'm sorry that I did." To which she responded that she's sorry that I did too, and that she was going to go nap. Later that day I texted to ask if she was free, and after 3 hours, I basically got a no, but I could drop some stuff off. At this point, I had been running out while she was not responding and gathering all of her favorite foods and treats along with writing a card. After I gave it to her, I went back and was texted things along these lines. "If you want the pastries, please take them back. I'm so confused. Was this supposed to make anything better? And, you hardly looked at me." At this point, I was pretty much done and replied with something like, "I know I'm not perfect, but I'm not going to be told I'm not trying when I am, and, when I try to do something I can't have it where only the things I did wrong are acknowledged." At this point, she finally made some attempt to be understanding, saying thank you for the gifts and that she didn't say I wasn't trying. To me it seemed like I only got that response because it seemed like I was finally done. In any case, it is over now, and time to move on. I don't think she physically cheated as many in the comments do, however, at this point, I do not care. All I hope is that I better know what to look for next time and find someone that works better for me personally. Thank you to everyone for the advice and for listening to me and my problems. I hope everyone here has a wonderful day. Update 2, May 28, 2024. Before I get started, yes, I already know I am an idiot and should have never gotten back with this girl. TLDR, about 4 months ago I made a post about a situation I was in with my now ex involving her getting flowers from an ex hand-delivered at midnight on her birthday. There were a number of gaslighting things that went on, and ultimately, I called the relationship off because of that. About a week later we talked, and she took accountability for everything and apologized. I decided to give her a second chance. I didn't update my post at the time because I was embarrassed at my lack of self-respect. I wish I never would have done this. She hit me. We are now broken up again, and despite her best efforts, there will be no more chances. Even I cannot come back after that. Honestly, I am kind of a mess emotionally right now. She hit me in my bed, and I haven't been able to get a good night's sleep since then. I think about the hit every time I go to sleep. We are both PhD students and work in the same building. I don't want to come in for meetings or to work because I fear I might see her. Somehow this situation is never ending. She told her friends, who I am also friends with, that she hit me by accident. However, after she hit me she said she could never forgive me if I did that to her, and sent me a text saying she'd understand whatever I decide to do and should have never ever done that, and that she ruined our relationship. Yet when it came time to break up that evening, she believed in the 3-strike rule, and was upset that she felt, she messes up once and it's over. This is all really messing with my head. Now all I can think is what if it was an accident, but also her response doesn't line up with that. I feel like I have to prove to my friends that I was abused and that I'm not overreacting. In any case, it just sucks. For those of you out there, if you leave a toxic situation, stay gone. There is nothing to be gained by going back. Also, while I don't think it matters, the reason she hit me goes as follows. We are taking the same course, and I have been consistently scoring lower on assignments with the same solutions. The same thing had been happening to another friend in the class, however, my ex always got full points. We emailed the grader and eventually got our grades corrected, so we were right to be upset and did not have the correct solutions. My ex types her solutions up, and I believe that plays a major role in why she always gets more credit. Solutions are just easier to read. In any case, I had been exploring using large language models to convert my handwritten text to typed and had had some success. I made an attempted joke in bed saying something along the lines of, Now the grader is just going to look at my typed solutions and give me credit. Then she hit me and began yelling how she works hard too and I'm diminishing her work. I see how the joke could be taken that way even though it wasn't my intent. It wasn't until after I apologized and calmed her down that she apologized for hitting me. Relevant comments. Comment 1. Even if her hitting you was just an accident, it seems like that incident was the straw that broke the camel's back for you, and that you had other growing concerns and feelings about the relationship. I feel like I have to prove to my friends that I was abused and that I'm not overreacting. You don't. A healthy relationship is one where either party should be free to leave for any reason. Even, "I just don't have romantic feelings anymore," is a valid reason to end things. The most that you have to do is simply continue being a good friend to them. If they ask you questions, it's your call whether you want to get into details, but I'd recommend sticking to facts. Comment 2. Stay on that PhD grind. Don't let a shitty relationship result in you imploding a good thing that doesn't have to suffer. You don't have to prove shit to anyone else. If they dismiss your truth, they aren't a healthy person for you. Better to learn a lesson late than never. It's rarely just one thing that results in a breakup, this was just the final thing. Comment 3. If you're getting hit and you end up apologizing for it, you're being abused. Comment 4. Ah yes, the 3-strike rule when it comes to abuse. The audacity of this girl, holy. Comment 5. 1. Good for you for walking away from that dumpster fire. 2. Anyone who brings up anything about y'all's relationship demise, just look at them and say, "It's over and I'm not participating in any of the drama anyone is trying to suck me into." They'll move on from it. 3. Don't let her presence there affect your PhD goals or comfort levels. You're not the toxic one walking into the place, she is. Hold your head high and just ignore her existence. Ah yes, the famous "you can't dump me because I believe I should get 3 strikes. Like how does she think that works? Does she need to hit him 3 times before he's allowed to break up with her? Also she said she would never forgive him if he hit her, but he's just supposed to ignore it when she does it to him? Anyway, that's it for this video. If you enjoyed, please consider subscribing. Thank you for watching.